And I am super excited to bring on our first guest of the evening, who was supposed to be on with us 3 weeks ago before the big power failure of 2013 happened. So I'm happy to bring on today Miss Mandy. How are you doing, Mandy?
I'm good. How are you?
I am awesome. Thank you so much for rescheduling with us today and being able to join once again. I really appreciate that.
No
So,
problem. Glad to.
yeah, so I wanted to make sure and let everybody know if you're watching right now and you have some questions for Mandy, be sure to pop those into the comments and I'll be sure and look down and ask those questions for you. So, girl, we're just now talking. Your journey started back in 2021, but can you tell us a little bit, Mandy, about how this all began? How did you learn you had breast cancer, and what were you doing in advance of that to be screened?
So, in my case, I actually found it myself. It was Thanksgiving week of 2021. I had this little pain in my breast, and I felt, I was feeling and felt this big lump. I knew it wasn't normal. Um, so then we fought around and went to a couple of doctors and got tested and everything. And Christmas week, we found out the results. It was stage 3, triple negative. And by that time, it had already spread to another lump in my breast and in my lymph nodes. Um, so, with that being said, we were all kind of panicking and everything. But I started chemo January 2nd of 2022.
Hey, Mandy,
Um,
when you found it yourself, you was it through a self exam?
well, I had a little pain.
Yeah.
And I know the doctors and everything says cancer don't hurt, but I think it was the good Lord telling me something was wrong. Um, because it was a big lump, and I wouldn't have felt it if I wouldn't have felt a pain in my breast.
Wow. So having that pain kind of alerted you to check out that area, and that's when you found it. And
Yes.
how old were you at that time?
Um, I just turned 37.
Yeah, and that's the point about triple negative breast cancer, right? Is it does affect younger women. I mean, that's super young. Anything under 50 they consider to be young for getting breast cancer. So,
I wasn't even old enough to get my checkups.
yeah,
Normal. So yeah, it was. That's why I believe it was the good Lord saying, "Hey, something's wrong, and it's moving fast."
right.
Because within a month, it had spread to 2 other spots. Because I checked it pretty regular after that.
Yeah, yeah. So you found that there was a lump. You felt some pain. You found there was a lump, and you went to have it checked out. And so, did they biopsy it right away, or walk us through
So
the story?
well, I kind of helped my doctors out a lot. I wasn't insured, so I was a cash patient, and I they were really worried about it as well. So I called around different facilities. I live in Caney, Oklahoma. My first test I had done, they wanted to do an MR or a mammogram. I drove all the way to Gainesville, Texas for that one because they could fit me in quicker. And then from that way, they wanted to do a biopsy. And I found Solace in Frisco.
Wow.
And
So how far is so where about is Caney, Oklahoma, where you're at? Is that how far from
went to
Gainesville and
Dewey. It's about hour and a half, 2 hour drive.
oh, and then so Frisco was even further, like two
Yes.
and a half, 3 hour drive?
It's about 2 hours, two and a
Okay.
half with traffic.
Wow, wow. Okay, so you went to Solis in Frisco.
So, I skipped a part. So in that process, Gainesville could not do the biopsy quick enough. So I drove back to Gainesville to pick up my papers, my results in the CD and everything, because when I was talking with Solus ladies, they were like, well, if you could drop your stuff off, the doctor would look at it. And if he thinks it's real serious, we'll fit you in the very next day. And so I got up early that morning and took all my discs down there. And she goes, just hang out for a couple hours if it's possible. So I did. I wasn't even waiting 45 minutes. And she called and says, come back. He can do you right now.
Now, did that was that scary for you to hear that seemed like it was an urgent situation?
I kind of felt like it was urgent already. I was just relieved that they could do it because I was afraid I was going to have to wait longer. Because it's the end of the year, everybody's getting their checkups. Nobody wants, like, your case isn't more important than somebody else's, you know. So I was very thankful for that, very thankful. And it was an easy procedure, and they walked me through it. And he personally called me. It was about a week later, and told me that it was cancer and that he was
So
sending the stuff to regular doctors.
the procedure that you're referencing was a biopsy?
Yes, on all 3 lumps.
And so where were those lumps located? They were all in the same breast?
Yes, ma'am. Well, 2 of them were in my breast. I had one that was right on the left-hand side, and then the another one that grew, I called it my nipple one because it was, like, right there, right by my nipple. And then the 3rd one was in my lymph nodes under my arm.
And did you
Um,
find the one under your in your lymph node, or did they locate that one?
I actually found that one too, but it was closer to Christmas week before I found that one.
You know, I talked to a lot of ladies, Mandy, and some men actually, and I can only imagine. You know, a lot of people they only find one lump. They don't find multiple lumps. So I just can't imagine where your head was when this was happening, and you found
It
the
was
one and
growing.
another.
The
Yeah.
other lump, like the one that was on my nipple, it wasn't there when I initially found the one on the side. Um, it grew within a month, and then it same with my lymph node. Now it wasn't as big, so that one I couldn't always feel, but if I could lay a certain way, because I don't know, I felt it every day. Um, I could lay a certain way, and that's how I could feel it.
That's so scary. I mean, gosh, like I said, you know, finding one and then realizing it's spreading like that must have been so scary. So, when you were alerted that it was breast cancer, where were you and how did you get notified?
I was in my living room, putting Christmas stuff up, and it was the doctor that did the biopsy. And we have a big fireplace, and I just sat there and started bawling.
Gosh, yeah. Were you alone at that time?
My husband was outside at the time, and we had some plumbers there that was working on our house.
Oh no. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, he was outside messing with the chickens. It wasn't too much longer, and he come in. So we wasn't expecting a phone call or anything that soon.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you weren't alone at least. I know a lot of I was alone when I found out, and being alone when you find out you've got breast cancer is pretty scary. I mean, it's scary no matter what, but
It
being
is,
alone
especially at a
is.
young age.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so then after you got this news, what happened next?
Um, I Dr. Keenavan was my oncologist or cancer doctor, and she did everything and got me in to see my chemo doctor, and I started chemo January 2nd. And
So
they
the date that you were diagnosed was December, what date in December of 2021?
it was Christmas week.
Christmas
Uh,
week. So you started chemo within like a week or two, is that right?
yes, ma'am.
Wow. They were serious.
As fast as it was growing, we didn't have an option
Yeah,
to wait.
yeah. Totally. Yeah.
It
So
was
you
pretty scary.
Yeah. So you're barely having enough time to digest this new diagnosis and you're already in the chair getting chemo, essentially.
Yes,
Wow.
pretty much. Um, yeah, we didn't. I have. I'm very blessed with the family I have, and they did everything they could. And I didn't do a lot of research. I got on Google 2 different times and freaked myself out. And so, like, all of that stuff that I didn't read about any of it. I put all of that in my family's hands and says, when I tell y'all, something's going on, then y'all can tell me if I need to call my doctor. Um, because getting on chemo or Google and that's horrible.
Yeah, you can really go down a rabbit hole with that and find yourself in a really bad mental position for sure.
Yeah,
So I
and then it
understand
makes it a
that.
lot worse.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. I think it was smart of you to uh kind of give that to your family and ask them to to carry that load for you so that you could keep the strength in your mind for what you were dealing with, and they could kind of help watch and make sure that they're helping take care of you. And
Oh
that was
yeah.
just smart of you to recognize, hey, I need help. I can't handle this all on my own with everything moving so fast and it having spread and everything like that. I think that was really, really smart. And it sounds like you've got freaking amazing family.
I do. Both sides, my husband's family and my family.
Yeah, what a blessing that was.
I couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah, yeah, that's so awesome. I'm so glad that you had that. So when you started chemo, how did that go for you? Was it rough? What kind of effects did you have from that?
So actually, I I went through chemo with the breeze. Um, I can't complain at all. Like I said, I didn't look at any side effects. I didn't want to know any side effects. I wanted to know when I took the medicine and how it made me feel. That's how I told them. Um, and I think it really helped. I gained 30 pounds on chemo. Um, and I didn't get nauseous. My worst side effect was mouth sores.
Yeah, that's
And
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm trying, I want to make sure that we're helping educate people on some of this stuff while we're talking. One of the things people don't realize is chemo kills fast dividing cells, and that's stuff having to do with your digestive system. It's your fingernails, it's your hair, like all hair. And so one of
yeah,
the risks of chemo is getting mouth sores, and the way that I was able to combat it doesn't work for everybody. Was there's something called biotine, which is a mouthwash. And so my doctor suggested that every time like right before I go to bed, right when I wake up, and after every single meal, I would like wash my mouth out for 30 seconds with biotine to help kill any bacteria and try to avoid getting mouth sores. But I did get some even still. So even if you had done something preventative, there's still, whether you did or not, I don't know, but you could still get that. You could still have that happen. So how bad were the mouth sores for you? Was it pretty bad?
so it wasn't. So my doctor told me I had a bottle of water and I did baking soda and salt, and he said gargle with that many times a day as you want to, and that helped a lot. But there were certain things you eat or what stuff that would throw my mouth into the mouth sores. And most of the time I could control it with the mouthwash, with the water and the baking soda and salt. But when it got too bad, then I got that miracle mouthwash, and it took it right away.
Yeah, I've heard of that miracle mouthwash stuff before. I'm not sure if it was around back in my olden days of going through triple negative breast cancer, but it's cool that they continue to come up with good ways to help take care of any of the side effects that you might get from chemo. So I'm glad to hear that. So mouth sores was your big thing. Was there anything else that you lost your hair, right?
I lost my hair within my fourth treatment. It started falling out, and I just went ahead and shaved it because it was falling out so bad. It was more aggravating to me than it was, it falling out. But it's all growing back now.
It
I
looks
just
great, man. It looks good. You're doing good. I think that's awesome. So, how did you feel about you losing your hair? Was it traumatic for you or?
So I thought it would be. I've always had long blonde hair. Um, and the one of the nurses in there, she was like, I thought I would have a big problem with it, but she's like, cut it short, and that will help with the transition. So I went and I cut it real short, and it actually looked really cute. So it didn't, so then when it was falling out and stuff, it didn't really bother me. It, I thought it would. So I just shaved it and wore a scarf.
That's awesome. That's really good. I know that it can be a very traumatic thing. I like you. I've always had really, really long hair, and I just decided to dive in as well and shaved it before it, became too much of a mess. So I think that was a smart move. So you got through chemo. It sounds like mouth sores, hair. Those were the main side effects that you had.
Yes.
And then how long were you in chemo for? You started January 2nd. And by the way, I noticed that Dwayne said that you were diagnosed on December 21st. You wanted to throw that in
That's my
there.
dad.
Yeah. Oh, see, there you go. Yep, yep. And we by the way, I want the people who are watching to know I do see your comments. I'm going to read them here in a second. I want to make sure and get through Mandy's story. So please do keep your comments coming in, your questions, and I'll be sure and ask Mandy some of those questions here in a second. So, how long were you in chemo? Sorry about that. Interrupted you.
Oh no, you're good. 6 months.
6 months. And so, when you completed chemo, what happened next in your journey here?
So I did the 6 months of chemo, and then I had a double mastectomy. That was August 6th or 8th. Well, it was around the first second week of August. And then I did 28 treatments of radiation. And I just finished my radiation this past right around Thanksgiving last year.
Gotcha. And what were the effects from that radiation for you?
Radiation about took me out. I'm not even gonna lie. So I'm still doing the Keytruda treatment. I got 2 more treatments left of it. That's just the immunity therapy. But it has a rare side effect that I caught. So that's a combination of the Keytruda and the radiation, it gave me colonitis. And I got really sick. Um, it was pretty bad. So I actually had to take a 2-week break off of radiation, just to let my body gain some more weight because I lost 20 something pounds in like 14 days. Um,
Wow, that's really
it was,
scary.
yeah, I was pretty sick.
Yeah.
Um, and now it's like still have um stomach problems, issues, where they have to keep putting me on steroids for the and I guess until I finish my Keytruda. But yeah,
Gotcha.
the combination of them two with the radiation was horrible.
It sounds like it
It
was
was
terrible.
brutal.
So you're not having any more of those specific problems at this time?
Yes, I'm on steroids right now.
Okay. Okay. So you got things under control. You're not having the problem of being really sick and losing weight anymore,
No,
right?
the steroids really it gets it down to where I can eat and everything, and well, I've put back on all that weight I've lost.
Yeah. And so Mandy, at what point did you have surgery?
That was in August,
Okay. And
and I
so
still have 1 more surgery to go.
and you had a double mastectomy, right?
Yeah,
And you had a lumpectomy too, right? Like they took some lumps and maybe biopsied
they took
those?
four lymph nodes,
You. Gotcha.
and they all came back good.
Oh, good. Okay, great. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
Wow.
all of it came back cancer free. The chemo worked. They did radiation just for precaution because of it was fast growing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then the end of the week next week I go again for my PET scan just to clarify everything's still good.
That's awesome. And this is a long journey for you, Mandy. I mean, being diagnosed December 21st, 2021, a full year essentially of treatments and surgeries and all that stuff happening. And then now
Yes,
you're on the Keytruda, an immunotherapy, which is one of the latest things that I'm sure Dr. O'Shaughnessy will talk about later today. Keytruda, she'll be speaking about that. But as I understand it, that's a really good thing for someone who had triple negative to be on, right?
it worked amazing with the chemo. I didn't have no side effects during chemo on it. I didn't have start having side effects on it until they mixed it with the radiation, and they told me that's a very rare side effect. Like so, but it's a really good immunity therapy, and you do it for 12 months.
Wow,
Um, so and it's not painful. It doesn't hurt.
that's good. That's always the best part. No pain,
I
right?
tried
We like that.
myself, so
Well, I know that we've got our next guest, Paisley's going to be coming up here in a few minutes, but I do have a few questions that I see coming through the chat. So I'm just going to go through here real quick and take a look and see what folks are saying so I don't miss anything. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure. Hang on. Vicky commented, "This journey makes us strong. I love who I am now." Vicky, we love who you are too, girl. She was the first guest from the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Day broadcast before the power went out. So, Whitney Fuller says, "Go Mandy. Woohoo." And then I think maybe your husband is on your account right now. He says, "We love you, Mandy." So it's coming from yourself, because I don't think you're typing that to yourself, because that would be weird. So I think your husband is saying that we love you. That's so cool. Janine Cummings says, "A little late, but howdy." She's in the house. Franny says, "Self breast exam saved my life. Damn, Mandy, 3 lumps," she says. Whitney Fuller says, "Love you, Mandy." And she also says, "Self exams need to be taught to younger women." I agree with that. In fact, Whitney, to your point, myself and another board member who is also a breast cancer survivor, we spoke to a classroom full of young girls recently and talked to them about being aware of their body and reporting anything to their parents, and letting their doctors know if they notice any changes. So I agree with you. I think it's really important at a young age to know your body and be familiar if anything is going on, so that you can be sure and catch it at the earliest stage possible. So that's a really good point, Whitney. That's awesome. Let's see. Franny says, "Mandy, how are they monitoring you now?"
Every 3 months, I get a PET scan.
Cool. And for those people not familiar, PET scans are something that a lot of breast cancer survivors, or people who are diagnosed with breast cancer, have, that actually causes any cancer, or not causes, but when they use the PET scan, it makes any cancer light up, so they can see if there's any cancer anywhere in the person's body. Not everybody has that done, but especially in your case, Mandy, that would be very important.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, and that's the easiest test to take.
So tell us, is the PET scan, is it like a CT scan, or are you in a tube, or how does it work?
Well, so they go in and they put you in this dark room, and they put this IV in you, and they inject you with the stuff that doesn't hurt or anything. They turn the lights out for you, let you take a 30, 45-minute nap, and then you stay in your own clothes, and then they run you through this machine. Like, it's the easiest test ever. Like, no drinking nothing before, no, none of that stuff.
So you said they run you through a machine. Is it like a tube, like an MRI,
Yeah,
or?
it's kind of like a CT machine.
Uh-huh. So is it like a
But it locks up
big donut?
anything. Yeah, and
Okay.
however much you're doing it, I mean, if you have cancer in there, it glows, and it's the best test for the results, the most accurate.
So every 3 months you're getting that.
Yes, I'll do that for about probably another 6 months to a year, and then I'll go to every 6 months.
Gotcha. Franny also says, "I was dismissed twice by my former oncologist when I presented with hip pain. Finally, a bone scan picked up my cancer." Wow, Franny, you're so smart for staying on top of that. Oh, and your husband wanted to remind you that when you went through chemo, that you also did experience hot flashes.
Oh, yeah, it threw me into menopause.
Gotcha. Yes. Yep. He's good with the dates. All your family is really great with the dates. He's like August 8th. He was answering your question from earlier. So, the Franny is asking about the Keytruda treatment. Now, is that a pill, or is it actual chemo that you go and sit in, and it's an IV?
They put it through my port. It's like a chemo, but it's not actually chemo. It's just immunity therapy, but it goes through an IV through my port, just like the chemo did. And it's about 30 minutes long.
Oh, that's not too bad. Oh, I meant to ask you, where are you? Are you being treated in Oklahoma, or are you being treated in Texas?
In Texas. I go to the Texas Oncology there in Denison.
Cool. That's great. Yeah. Gotcha.
All my doctors were in Texas.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you're in good company down here. Janine asked, "Did you do radiation every day?"
Yes. I did it for, well, I did 28 treatments, but I took a 2-week break because I got sick, but I went Monday through Friday.
Oh, that's a lot. Did you have any burning or anything from that?
So luckily it got really, really dark, and then it started itching. But if I wouldn't have took that 2-week break, it would have got really bad, I think. I mean, it's still discolored now a little bit, but not as bad.
Man, you just sound like such a trooper, Mandy. Like you're just like, whatever, it was just my hair, no big deal. Just some mouth sores. Like you just seem like you really powered through and you just buckled
You
down
have to
and
stay
just plowed
positive.
through, right?
You have to stay positive because if you don't, that makes it worse for you. It's crazy. Like days I could get out and I felt like I drive up to the store. Like one day, I went up there to get an ice cream sandwich. And I was kind of feeling bad and depressed. Well, I was driving and I get down there and these people's house is on fire. And I'm like, they've got it worse than I do. They just lost everything.
Wow,
So it's like
yeah.
the more positive, you gotta stay positive. And that's the only thing that got me through it. Well, besides my
Yeah,
family.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, that situation with the fire, that just kind of put your life into perspective in that moment, huh?
Yeah, they just snapped me out of it, because they had it. What they were going through was nothing compared with it's a lot worse.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
It
I
was
think
a
that's
total loss.
Yeah, I think
you
that's
know,
a really good message, to stay positive going through treatment because you're right, it is really easy to get down and depressed and lonely. Having a good support group, whether it's friends or family or both, or a church family or whatever it is so
Mhm.
important. I remember when I went through triple negative breast cancer that my worst times was when I was alone, you know, and so I made sure that I was around people a lot so that I would feel energized and not get depressed. And I think it's so important to stay positive, like you're saying.
It is because I mean, I watched people in chemo. I didn't know them, but they just kept. I watched them go down. You know, and that's hard to watch. Because like that could have been me, but instead I was the star patient.
You were. You're
Like
the rock star patient. Come on. That's awesome.
So it was, it was weird, it's hard. And it's still when I go, like I had this one lady, I look for her every time I go in there because she was starting I don't know what she had or anything, but it hit her really bad. So, and like the last time I went in there, she was in the chair laughing and giggling. So like it was getting better for her. Uh,
That
I
that
like to look for the certain people.
yeah. That I mean, I bet that felt so good to see her happy and smiling and
It is, cause man, it's rough. I mean, that's a lot of stuff they put in your body, and it takes a toll on you.
totally does. I want to make sure and read a couple of more of these comments here. Franny says, "Awesome on the pet scans. May the scan gods be with you, and I'm glad they are offering those extra drugs like Keytruda now." Um,
Yes.
we also have Kim Beavers. What's up, Kim Beavers? Thanks for joining. She is sending you tons of hearts and love and lots of prayers too. Looks like your sister Whitney Fuller says, "So proud of you, my big sis." And Janine says, "You're a rock star." And your husband says, "We are all very proud of Mandy. She is a trooper and always positive." So cool. Man, girl, I'm so glad you were able to join today and share your story with everyone. It's very uplifting and inspiring. And I know that you're providing hope to women, especially those who are newly diagnosed. And we have someone who's going to be on the show tonight who is newly diagnosed. And I know that she's going to gain a lot of hope and inspiration and encouragement from you. And I know
I
that,
like to try to help anybody I can, cause man, it's a long, hard journey, but there's light at the end of it.
amen. That's awesome. And I know, Mandy, a lot of other people are going to get an opportunity to see this story. We're going to post it on our YouTube channel so that women can find it out there, women and men, especially those that are going through triple negative breast cancer. It can be such a scary diagnosis, and to hear your story is very motivating and encouraging. So I thank you so much. Do you have any final words? Like, is there something that you want to say, like the biggest positive maybe that you got from going through this experience?
I'm gonna have the perfect breast.
Priorities.
That's my reward.
You'll have to keep us posted in the Survivors Rock of Breast Cancer Community Facebook group. Let us know how that
Yeah.
all turns out. Keep us posted on your progress, okay?
Yeah.
Awesome, girl. Well, thank you so much for joining this evening, and you have a wonderful night. And I can't wait to hear more from you down the road and hear how you're doing. Okay, take care of
Yes,
yourself, and thanks
ma'am.
again. All
Look
right,
forward to
you have a
it.
great evening. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that was Mandy. Man, give it up for her. Raise the roof. Rock star in the house. Such a positive story that she shared with us. Very cool.